Welcome to Beyond Referrals, the podcast exploring how trust, growth, and client relationships in financial services are evolving in the digital and AI age. I'm your host, Emily Armstrong. Let's dive in. Hey listeners, I am so excited that you're here hitting play on this episode with my friend David DeCelle. This was a fantastic conversation. I was really impacted by David's story of how he built his business. And I think it's easy to see somebody who's achieved success like David and wonder how they got there. Well, he gives it to us straight. He went from 45 grand in credit card debt, living with his dad and Ubering, to building a very successful consulting practice and now truly disrupting the financial services industry with his company, WealthReach. He always had this philosophy of wanting to make sure that he made sure that people were better off than they were before having met him. And that is absolutely true. If you've ever talked to David, you feel better off than when you did before talking to him. So I love that. He talks about his North Star being more like a constellation and how his purpose has deepened over time. He shared his story of how he found his faith again in his journey and how finding his identity as a professional has really supercharged his business and attracted the right people to him at the right time. So he and Dan Allison wrote a book called The Organic Growth Revolution. I recommend this book to all financial advisors trying to grow their practice organically. And what he describes in the book is so relatable to me on my journey as a financial advisor and business owner as well. We also talked about the importance of content marketing and how much that has grown his business over the years. And a simple commitment to just show up and serve with content marketing has made him where he is today. And I asked him, do you need a digital presence to grow your business beyond referrals? And his answer was a bit surprising. So this is an amazing conversation with an amazing person. Make sure you give this one a listen. Can't wait for you to hear my conversation with David DeCelle. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Referrals. So today's guest is someone who is truly disrupting the wealth management industry. David DeCelle is the CEO of Model FA, a consulting and coaching company built to help financial advisors grow through organic growth strategies, marketing systems, client acquisition, and team execution. He's also the co-founder of WealthReach, an AI-powered prospecting platform that is absolutely transforming the industry with modern technology. And before building companies that serve advisors, David was an advisor himself inside of Northwestern Mutual. So through Model FA, he's consulted with firms that have over $400 billion of AUM. He's the host of the Model FA podcast, and he's the co-author alongside of our friend Dan Allison of The Organic Growth Revolution, which you have not picked that up, you absolutely need to. Today, we're going to talk all about advisor identity, marketing, and just kind of his journey with what he's done in his career. David lives in Apollo Beach, Florida with his wife, Kennedy, and their 9-month-old baby girl, Scotland. So David, I am thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you having me. And it's been really cool to see your come up as well as it relates to all the content that you're putting out, all the guests that you're having on. It's a grind, but you're putting in the work. So I'm excited to fast forward a year or two and see where you're at. So I appreciate you having me on your platform.
Thank you so much. That's really, really encouraging to me. Thank you. We're kind of matching our colored shirts.
Yeah, I noticed that. I wasn't going to say anything, but I did notice we are kind of matching.
I love it. Well, I have been really looking forward to having you on this podcast. For me to get to know you a bit more, we've connected a handful of times, but also for you to share your story and what you're doing with my listeners. And so I would love to start kind of from the origin story of you and your journey. So how did you go from being an advisor, in the grind, building a book of business, to being someone who I see as truly shaking up the industry from a top-down level? Take us on that journey.
Yeah, so I think it starts a little bit further back than that, if I may. So, growing up, I still am an only child, and my parents loved me a ton, and they did everything that they could for me to give me a better life. And as I got older, I started to realize that they were doing all that stuff at the sacrifice of themselves. We were very middle class growing up, but I still, you know, had the nicest baseball glove and the nicest baseball bat. And they didn't allow me to really feel what they were feeling. They did a good job kind of sheltering me from that, which I just very much appreciate. And then I grew up in a town called Haverhill, Mass. And it's sort of like your typical towny style place where if you stay there, you're going to the local bars and you have the same friends for years and all that type of stuff. And it wasn't until I went to high school, I went to a place called St. John's Prep in Danvers, an all boys Catholic school. And it wasn't until then that like I got exposed to what else is out there. So, my parents, between scholarships and financial aid, my parents, my grandparents, like everyone kind of pooled together their money to, send me to the prep. And I remember, going back to, some of my friends' houses in that area, these big mansions, these nice cars, and I'm just like, whoa. Like I hadn't been exposed to that. Like I had metal rusty kitchen cabinet, with no hardware. So like juxtaposing that to these beautiful homes. And I would always ask, like, hey, what do your parents do for work? And it was always either finance or they owned a business. So I knew that I wanted to do one of those things. So like high school was sort of the transformational time of my life to just expose me to what else is out there. So at that time, I had a friend, his name's Julian, and we started a boat detailing and repair business. So we were detailing boats, we were buff and waxing them, doing bottom
Young
paint,
hustlers.
like electronic installation. And we each got a job at West Marine, which, boating store, but we would each only work there 1 or 2 days a week. And the purpose was twofold. One, when someone came in and asked to help us, get them stuff to buff and wax their boat, we'd explain it, but we'd, make it sound a little bit complicated. Then we'd slide our business card and say, we could do it for you. And also in order to attract people who know boats, West Marine didn't pay well, but they would give you like a 60 to 90% discount on every item in the store. So we would buy the materials at a steep discount, still give the customer a deal on the materials, but we'd make money on the margin. And we got it up to a point where I think we did it for at least 4, maybe 5 years. It was like into the beginning of college where we were like making 20, 25 grand cash each after expenses over a 2.5, 3 month period. So I got like my first taste of entrepreneurship and, making, full-time income that an adult would make in, just a few short months. So then went to college and I took high school very seriously. College, I took fun very seriously. And like to the point where I wouldn't go to class if it was raining out because I didn't feel like getting wet. Like high school, it was straight A's, the occasional B. College, it was straight B's, the occasional C. But there was someone on campus at the time. Her name was Lauren Greeley, now Lauren Miller, and she was a recruiter for Northwestern. And I remember just being very attracted to the opportunity that she had, put in front of me and income projections and things of that nature. And what resonated with me the most is she had said something to the effect of, you can get out of this whatever you put into this. Like it's in your control. And I had the boat experience in my mind where it's like we grinded, we got up early, we stayed working late. Like we'd pull our truck, we bought a company truck, like we'd pull our truck up, put the headlights on so we could finish when it got dark. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And this checks the box of being a quote unquote business owner, but also in finance, which is what I learned in high school is how these people had these amazing lives. So I did that for 7 years. And 2 years into it, I took over our new advisor development program, which was a combination of the internship as well as, career changers and, people who weren't in the internship essentially. And when I took that over, I was 22, 23 at the time. Like I had no business being a quote unquote leader. And at the time, Northwestern had, I don't know what they're at now, but about 350 offices. And our units production had us ranked like 330 something. Like we were garbage. And so it was over this, we made some changes. And one of the changes we made sounds simple, but it was very impactful. It was our team's like mission, where originally the mission was to make sure that you're better off having met us than having not met us, and to identify the future leaders of our firm. And let me actually rephrase that because I said that backwards. It was to identify the future leaders of our firm and to make sure you were better off having met us than having not met us. But what I noticed in my first couple of years there is as soon as I realized someone wasn't going to be a future leader of the firm, I kind of wrote them off. And like that vibe was felt throughout
Mm,
the program. So
mhm.
the change we made is what I said the first time by mistake, which is first and foremost, make sure they're better off having met us than not met us, and to identify the future leaders of the firm. So we just flipped it on its head. And amongst a host of other things, but with that vibe change, so to speak, by my fifth year running the program, we were number one in the country based on our units of production. So it was over that time period that I fell in love with the idea of developing other people. And at Northwestern, I was bringing on 50, 60 clients a year, which was good. But I told myself, okay, if I can help 10, 50, 100 plus people do that same thing, it magnifies the impact in the marketplace. So I decided to leave there. I was 27. I was married for a short period of time, 6 months at that same inflection point where I was leaving Northwestern. I got a divorce and
Mm,
then I misread my Northwestern contract. I thought my renewals were going to be $3,500 a month. So I'd have some base level income, but it was actually 3,500 for 12 months. So like $300 a month.
not much.
So that was a wake up call. I didn't have any money because I was a landscaper that cut his grass last, so to speak, and trying to avoid this light in my face. But I was the landscaper who cut his grass last, so I was the advisor giving advice but not taking my own advice. So I didn't have any money. I had negative money. I had 45,000 in credit card debt at the time. So at 27 years old, after wearing a suit and tie every day, I then had a humbling moment of moving back in with my dad in his 2-bedroom apartment and my stepmom. And I was like ashamed of that. I was talking to another friend of mine, Tyler, uh, which know your audience, but I was complaining about it. And I say know your audience because his father had recently passed away. And he's like, dude, I'd love to go live with my
Mm,
dad.
mhm.
And it like totally changed my perspective. And I was with my dad for 2 years, and it was like the best 2 years of my like, imagine being able to live with your folks as an adult in your
Yeah.
20s. Like, it was just fun, but it was hard too because I got into consulting having no business really getting into consulting. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning. I before LinkedIn put its governors up I'm on a connection request. I'd send out 4 or 500 connection requests a day. Every single person got either a personal message or a personal video from me at the time. And then I'd do free consulting. I would like do whatever I could. I was doing videos, I was doing content, but I was making no money. And
Mm,
this went on for like 6+ months, not making a single dollar. And so the other thing that I would do is from like 6 to 11 o'clock every night during that time period. Again, I was working with people's money. I was in a suit and tie. I was in an office. Like I was, by all means, like somewhat legit. And then from 6 to 11 every night at 27 years old, I was driving for Uber to make ends meet while I was playing the facade of consultant during the day. So it was a grind. It was a lot. I walked a lot during the day. That first year, I either read or listened to over 250 books because I had nothing else to do. But it also put so much information in my brain that I could then regurgitate to help other people. And I joked for a while that I get paid because other folks won't consume that much information. So their Spark Notes version that they're willing to pay.
mhm.
And over that journey, I had a business. It was a terrible name. It was called the Financial Advisors Alliance. It was just a mouthful. And I came across at the time Brewer Consulting, and that's since been rebranded to Model FA. Did some contract coaching. When I first met Patrick Brewer, actually, he lived in Austin, but he happened to be in Massachusetts, and I was trying to collaborate with him. I, booked a sales call. I went through the process, like trying to get to him, and then I saw that he was in Martha's Vineyard, right off the coast of Boston. So I hit him up. I was like, "Hey, you have to go back through Boston to get to the airport. Like, let's meet for coffee." And this was again early on, so I had no money. I drove to Boston. and I was late to the meeting because I couldn't find any street parking and I had no money to pay for parking. So then finally I put my tail between my legs and put my card into the, slot for the parking garage, knowing that it would overdraft me, and just said, whatever, I'll figure this out later. Met with them, had a good meeting. And then fast forward probably a year from that, I had done contract coaching. They hired me, so to speak, from my business that I had that wasn't making a ton of money anyways. It was more of like a talent acquisition, made me the president of the company. Fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. Then I bought the company from them.
You
And
had some money now.
yeah, it was a sweet deal. I'll put it that way. I didn't need a ton of money to buy it, but that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I just riffed for a bit. So I'll pause. Just take a sip of water.
I am like really moved right now. Like I am feeling emotion. I think people see you, or at least I see you, you're extremely successful and you have incredible relationships. You have an incredible reputation and you are very genuine. And I think that's why like you have the level of impact that you've been able to have at your age. And it's just amazing to go back to your journey and really like I didn't know most of that about you. And I am just feeling moved. Like I don't even know what the emotion is, but you persevered through a lot to get to where you are. And what do you feel like guided you? Like what has been your North Star in this whole thing?
It's changed, but stayed steady my whole life at the same time. And I might get emotional, so forgive me. So, like to start, it was just to make money. Like I wanted cool shit. Like I wanted nice cars. I wanted the big house. I wanted the nice vacations. I grew up, I was in the church choir. I was an altar server, like very Catholic, stand up, sit down, kneel down, all that stuff. And then kind of fell out of love with the church. End of high school, certainly into college. And it was just make money. When I started at Northwestern, even though it was make money, the thing that stayed consistent over the years is just like redefining what success is for my family, my cousins, my folks, my aunts, my uncles, now my nieces, my daughter now. So it was to open their eyes up to what's possible. Like if someone they know that they grew up with, they've seen trip and fall, if that person can do it, maybe they believe that they can do it as well. And it got back into wanting to make money and wanting to level up my life, wanting to impress my now wife. And my now wife has been really good. When we first started dating, I wasn't going to church. I, kind of fell out of love with Catholicism in general. It just wasn't sort of the vibe I liked. I felt like it was a little punitive, in nature. And then that's just me.
Mhm.
But she did a good job of not pushing me, but exposing me. And like, the way that she would talk about the Bible and stories in the Bible, uh, like she explained it in story format, not in like
Like
first
rules.
chapter of John. Let me read, the King James version that, it's tough to comprehend. And for the first time in my life, I felt like pulled into faith. Whereas my life before that, I felt always pushed into faith. Like it's Sunday, we go to church.
Mhm.
Gosh, a couple of years ago now, I chose to get baptized, and it was cool. It was at the pier in St. Pete, like on the beach. So
Mm,
like that was pretty sweet. And there was a couple hundred people that all got baptized together. It was pretty sweet.
it's awesome.
But yeah, now it's my North Star is more of a consolation than a star. And what I mean by that, it's first and foremost, I want to make sure that the people that we work with, we actually have an impact on them. Like I don't want to sell them something that's not going to be helpful to them. I truly want to have an impact on the people that are giving us the opportunity to serve.
Mhm.
Number two, I am guided by my faith. It's amazing. When I finally like surrendered, so to speak, in my faith, like my life took off like insane. Like it's,
Amazing. Mhm.
you know,
I feel like that's like God being like, "I am real." Now you can't deny it, right? There's
it's,
no part of you that can deny that God is real in your life.
it's crazy. My wife, my daughter, I want to take care of my parents. and I still want the cool shit too. But like,
That is a nice byproduct, right? I want cool shit too, David.
but yeah, it's more of a
It's
consolation
amazing.
that guides me now. And it's interesting. I don't always like think about all those things at the same time, hence why I'm getting a little emotional. But like whenever I need one of those things, I'm reminded of it and it gets me through whatever I'm working through at that time.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Of course.
Yeah. I feel like that could be we could just like stop the podcast and that's enough, everyone. That's actually a really good segue into what I wanted to go to next. So in the book, I'm gonna just shameless plug your book. Okay. So this is The Organic Growth Revolution, written by yours truly, David DeCelle and Dan Allison. And I talked about this book a bit when Dan was on my podcast a few weeks ago. But I loved this book and your take on the advisor identity, I guess, problem and how important that is, and your story with your identity struggle in your like kind of earlier on in your career is something I really related to. I felt like deeply what you said about not knowing who you were and that coming off and kind of like maybe not in your words, but in my interpretation of your words, like living in survival, trying to build a business in survival. And that is a very, very hard, exhausting thing to do. I have a very similar journey with that, but will you talk to me then kind of, and you can bring back this conversation of your constellation or your North Star, but what was that journey like for you of like finding your identity as a professional and like how advisors can do that as well?
So as I think back to like different stages of my life, I feel like my identity was always there, deep down inside of me. I just didn't necessarily let it come out because when I was in front of certain people, I would make the assumption in my mind, whether it was conscious or subconscious, of this is the type of person I need to be in front of this person to be liked and accepted. So as a result, like you go through life almost having like multiple personalities, without the crazy associated to it, or at least I didn't think I was crazy. But like you have these multiple personalities depending on the rooms that you find yourself in, the people that you surround yourself with. And, particularly when I was at Northwestern, like I didn't feel like myself at all. I may have acted like I did, but I just I didn't feel myself. It was like this massive facade. And it wasn't until, and this isn't like associated with Northwestern, it's more so like just the stage of life, I guess I was in. But when I left Northwestern and went through all that stuff that I mentioned a moment ago, I kind of had this, and it was a lot from the books I read, the books I listened to, the podcasts I listened to, where it was just like an F it, be who you are. People will either accept you or not, and the ones that do are your people. And I just like really bought into that idea, and I decided to like just lean into it. This is me, take it or leave it. Sometimes I can be confident and kind of cocky. Sometimes I can almost cry on the podcast and everything in between. And you either like me or you don't. And I stopped like worrying about what people thought about me, or at least minimize that as much as I could, because I still care what people think about me, but it doesn't necessarily affect me like it did back then. I think, for advisors, I still get questions from folks. I got one the other day over email, hey, we've been getting a lot of questions from our advisors on when they're at a networking event or a social setting, like how do they talk about what they do? It's like, dang, you got an identity crisis if you can't even speak to what you do.
Yeah.
So I think for advisors, it's a lot of like self-reflection and like internal work on yourself, being honest with yourself, going through books or podcasts or workshops even where you're able to like I remember when I went to like Fast Track at Northwestern, like they do a really good job of like breaking you down and building you back up and sort of, starting to let out like all the crap that you've dealt. It's almost like therapy, to a degree. But I think if advisors, if and sort of the order of the book, like if advisors don't yet know who they are and how they want to hold themselves out to the world, they have no business picking a niche yet, because you're just going to in turn start acting the way that you think that niche wants you to act and the way that you talk and things of that nature. So I think it's a lot of like inner work that needs to be done. And I should have prepared on my end, like book
I sent
recommendations.
you no prep work. So,
But
no.
like, if you want to find out who you are, like literally Google or go into Claude or ChatGPT and just type in best books on discovering who you are and read or listen to all of them.
Mm.
Like I'm a big believer in picking a topic and getting a bunch of different perspectives on it with different resources, different books, different authors. But like I'd encourage you to try to break yourself down to build yourself back up if you feel currently that you're walking through life in sort of an out of body experience and not in a positive way. If you feel like you're a different person at work than you are at home with your family, like that requires some work to unravel. Yeah. So I'm by no means like perfect with my identity. Like it's a lifelong journey, but it's something that you need to spend the time to work on and spend the time to maintain moving forward. But I'm a hell of a lot better than I was previously. Like I feel like anytime we talk, I'm a straight shooter. I care. I try to give some advice here and there when I find an opportunity to leave you better off than I found you. And that's every single interaction I have in all areas of my life. But I wasn't doing that before. Before, I would only talk with someone or show interest if I thought that they had something to give me in return. And that's just an empty way to go through life.
Yeah, what's going through my head is like, do you have examples of how you, and this is not even like business focused, like this is more internal work of like, who am I? Who is David as a person? And when you really started leaning into that, like how it changed your business or how it changed how you show up in work or even your results.
It sounds a little non-believable, but like I remember when I wasn't in that mindset, I had to go out and get everything that I wanted. And I still do that because you need to take action. Like I love and reread the book Think and Grow Rich,
Hmm.
every year in January, but it should be titled Think, Act, and Grow Rich, right? You still need to have some level of
There's a
action.
little missing piece. Yeah.
Exactly. But the way it changed is like the people that I wanted to work with started serendipitously, God, the universe, like whatever you believe in, started getting attracted to me. As
Hmm.
soon as I kind of realized who I was and committed to sticking that way, the right people just surfaced at the right time. Like throughout, like the worst place I was in financially was at 27 years old, as I mentioned, no money, 45 grand in credit card debt, no revenue. And as soon as I figured out my identity and started to make money, every single year I've made more money. I've never had a
Hmm.
down year since that moment, which has then allowed me to take care of my family. Like my mom's never paid for a plane ticket to Florida to visit me from Massachusetts. When we go out to eat with people, like I pay because I like to do that. Like I'm not trying to make money to hoard it and do selfish things. I still like doing some selfish things and buying some stuff that I like, but I'm the first
Hmm.
person that whips out their credit card every single time we're out doing something with anyone. Like I don't like splitting the bill. Like I don't want to be
Hmm.
in a position to where I have to split the bill. I want to be in a position to where I can provide and we don't have that awkward, no, you pay, no, I pay, no, you pay. Can we split it?
Yeah.
So long-winded answer to like good things and good people just started attracting towards me. So I wasn't having to go out and get it in every single instance. It was supplemented by that attraction.
Hmm. Well, and now you're like at this point in your business where it's completely different than what you were describing of the early days. Like you have such a platform of people who trust you and you're building things that don't exist and like this attraction equation is probably compounding over time. How so some of the things that I'm working with my clients with, and I'm part of my philosophy with advisors specifically in marketing is like, I don't think that there is a future where you can just like do really, really, really good work without having like really prioritizing your digital reputation and your digital identity and things like content marketing. Like that is a part of the equation in my opinion. So what is your opinion and take on that? And also, yeah, like from where you're at now, how did you really get here? On top of staying true to yourself and your identity, what were the other things that you did, like more strategy or tactic wise, to grow your business and yourself?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you have to have a credible online presence. I did a ton. I do a ton of content. Like, I think,
You're a content machine.
don't hold me to an exact number, but like over 200 podcast episodes, another passion project podcast that I've since sunset because things are I'm too focused on, WealthReach and Model FA right now. I didn't have time for a passion project, but it was called Business with the Boys. My buddy and I, Landon, we would interview entrepreneurs, and that has 50, 60, 70 episodes, something like that. I would do, random sprints when I was first starting where it was like a video a day for 30 days and then rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat, being on other people's shows like yours today. And to the point now where, like, from a credibility standpoint, when I get on a sales call with like a massive enterprise and they're curious who I am, if they just Google my name, I take up the whole first page. Like,
You show up.
it's
Yeah.
it's all there. And it's one of those things where the more content you do, the more time you play the game, so to speak, the easier the sales process becomes because there's that built-in level of trust before they even make it to you. If they even do an inkling of research in advance, like, they're ready to rock. It just
They're
comes
sold.
to budget.
Yeah.
The only time that I don't get a client is if our price and their budget isn't aligned. But if they have the dollars to invest, it's done deal. But at the beginning, like, the ratios were way worse because, like, they didn't know who I was. Like, I was 27. I was talking with someone in their 50s, telling them how I could help them. Like, they're like, "What's this kid now?" So it's one of those things where, from a content perspective, you can't try it. Like, you have to do it, and you can never stop.
Oh my God, wait, just repeat that phrase.
When it comes down to content, you can't try it. You have to do it, and you can never stop.
Period. Yeah.
Period.
Did you have the foresight back then, or were you just like, I'm just going to do this because I think people are like, or were you like, I know what this does, I'm doing it, and I'm not trying it, I'm doing it, I'll never stop? What was that decision?
A lot of the books I read, and the only book signing I've ever gone to, I drove all the way to New Jersey from Massachusetts for it. I was certainly a fanboy at the time. I read all of Gary Vaynerchuk's books. And
Mhm.
he's just like, content, 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 content. And when you watch his videos, read his posts, listen or read his books, like, you get in this like trance, so to speak. And what I mean by trance is like, maybe like echo chamber is better than trance. An echo chamber where, all the content I'm seeing is from Gary V talking about content, so then I became like a believer in it. And that's sort of when I went all in. But it was because I allowed myself to get convinced by someone who's done what I wanted to do. Right. Then that's a whole separate conversation of, take advice from folks that have, done things that you've done or that you want to do, or has helped other people accomplish what you're looking to accomplish. Right. So, like, for me, it wasn't like David's smart and can see the impact of social media in the long term. It's David listened to someone who has achieved success and acted on that advice and didn't just read a book and say, "Oh, that was good," but like read a book and like did the shit that it told you to do.
Yeah, and look at
And
what
that's how it
happened
went.
from that.
Yeah. So it's being humble enough to be able to take advice, being confident enough to take action and not worry about the feedback that you get from others, and being consistent enough to actually experience the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, that's huge. Do you think that an advisor can so to back up what I'm about to ask you, sometimes I'll meet with somebody and they might be a bit more established in their practice. Not a beginner by any means. They might have the enterprise like 20 years in or something. And there's almost like this pride, I feel, with doing something like content. And for that advisor or founder to take ownership in it and not just like outsource it and have no input or ownership. And they'll say things like, well, why would I do that if I get referrals? Or like, there's just a big resistance to them diving in. Do you think an advisor or a practice can grow by referrals alone anymore?
I do.
Okay, tell me more.
Look, like you don't have to do content, just like you don't have to eat clean or go to the gym. You don't have to do anything.
Sure. Uh-huh.
And I think from a referral perspective, if you actually have a system that's comfortable for you and comfortable for your clients, you can build a great business that way. I think, and I'm sorry, this light is in my face.
It's
It,
not bothering me. It might be in your eye.
yeah, I'm trying to keep it right straight down. But the thing is like people need to do what they need to do to hit the goals and the vision that they have established for themselves.
Mhm.
And if you're someone that can get to where you're going on the time frame that you've chosen in the way in which you've done it already, word, like more power to you. Like that's one thing that it took me a while in consulting to have that realization where people aren't necessarily always going to do what you think they should do because you think they should do something.
Yeah.
Like some people
I
just,
need to take notes on what you're saying right now.
you know, and one of the most frustrating and saddest things as a consultant is knowing that someone has more potential and they're not living up to it. But if they're genuinely happy, not content, but happy with what they're doing and the pace in which they're going, sweet. I'm not there. There's a little bit of envy on my end if they're being honest with their happiness. The challenge is a lot of people cop out and say they're happy when they're really content, but there's something deep inside them where they know it's not about hitting, in my opinion, it's not about hitting your goals for selfish reasons. It's if you're a great advisor, I kind of think you have an obligation to help more people. But sometimes that's tough to convince someone to do that because the revenue model in this industry creates complacency because it's recurring revenue, So I forget what the question was, but hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, of course, no, it was like, can an advisor grow without any like niching marketing content? And you said yes. And
They can. They're
yeah,
just going to grow slower. But at the very least, assuming that they've collected a decent amount of assets and their book of business isn't everyone in their 70s drawing assets and dying, then technically they're going to double every
sure,
10 years just based on
sure.
the rule of 72. Right. So it's like, if you're cool with that, sweet. But like
Mhm.
on my AirPods, you know how you can like put your name on it and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like mine says 1 billion. Like
Nice.
so that's something where like if I want to be worth $1 billion, like I got to try to do all the things to grow because that $1 billion, what that means to me is I can take care of a ton of people that I care about. I can change my bloodline for generations.
Mhm.
That's important to me. That's not always important to anyone else. And one thing I've had to work on is not judge them for what's important to them if it's something that is important to me.
Well, this goes back to the whole identity piece. Like, if you know your identity and you know what's important to you, then you can really determine what to do from there, like how to grow your business, who to work with, all sorts of things. Okay, that's good stuff. I'm gonna noodle on that what you said about like you can't force what you want onto other people. I'm learning that a lot as a coach right now
It's tough.
and a parent.
Yeah.
More a coach right now. Yeah, we won't even get into my 3-year-old. Okay, well, there's a few questions I'm not going to be able to get to, but let's do lightning round.
We'll
But
do a part 2, Emily. I'm inviting myself back.
yay, come back. Yeah, let's do it. I would love that. Okay, last question, and then we'll do some lightning round. But so I know that becoming a dad was so important for you. So how has becoming a father shaped how you operate your business and kind of like what you're building?
Thought I was past the crying part. Uh, I'm still working on that. I think what I've made it a point to do, and I'm not perfect with it, but as best as I can, I wake up before my wife and daughter. So I'm up between.
We need to get our heads right.
I'm working 4:30 or 5 to 7 a.m., 7:30. My daughter's been sleeping a little bit later because I have the morning shift, so to speak. So it's like, all right, if I want to spend time with my family at night and not work into the night, like I just have to wake up earlier. It is what it is. On the weekends, same thing, like getting up at 5, maybe 6 on the weekends.
The
But
amount
I'm
of
working
emails you've sent me on a Saturday in the morning, I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
yeah. And it's if I wanna spend time with my family, I need to do the things that I need to do while they're sleeping, and that's just the deal, you know? So, I've been intentional about that. I've been intentional about, when I'm done work, I'm done. Again, not perfect at that, especially our team's group chat when we're busting chops and debriefing the day,
It's hard. It's
I still
hard.
get pulled into that. My wife and I, we do a date night every other Thursday night. Nanny comes over, takes care of the baby, so I can still show my wife love. Just because we have a baby doesn't mean our relationship stops. So very consistent with that. And then like I use moments of bath time and changing a diaper and feeding as times where I'm just like immersed in that moment, with my baby, and exposing her to new things. Like, I don't know. I'm still very, very much working on that. I'm sure other people can give me a ton of advice, but like I want my wife in Scotland to like look back years from now and be like, Dad never gave up, but he was always present. He worked his ass off, but he was always there when we needed him. That's my goal, anyways.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm. So if you're open to how I've learned to make this work a little bit, yeah, it's really hard, especially for like entrepreneurs and high achievers and workers like us. Like I'm wired similarly to you, and it's hard to like disconnect from that and be present with your kids, but it's like a muscle you have to build. So like if you can be present for 10 minutes, like literally phone in the other room, not even thinking about, you have to mentally like click in, try that for like 10 minutes here and there. And then I think weekly rhythms, so, like, you and your wife's date night, that rhythm is, like, core to the whole family. So, like, can you get something like that with Scotland? Can you do, like, a daddy coffee date or a daddy park date, like, once a week? That way, there's just this rhythm on your calendar that keeps you accountable to checking in with her. And what I've found over time is, like, my kids ground me so much. Like, the concept of co-regulation, how they need us to regulate them. Well, I also need my kids to regulate me because they bring me into the present. And so I think as you go on, you'll find that and it's really enjoyable, but it's hard at first. It's kind of like it's hard for people like us to really click into that. But those are rhythms and things that I found to help me do that better.
I love that. I was smirking because you said, daddy daughter, dates or whatever. My wife and I were out to lunch Friday last week, and this dad walked in with probably his 5-year-old daughter. And I literally, like, when we got up to leave, I went up to him and I was like, dude, I have a 9-month-old baby girl. I can't wait to do stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, she's obviously too young to, like, take out to lunch. It's more of a chore. If I don't have
Yeah.
my wife with me to help. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that age frame.
Yeah. It's so sweet. The other thing that's helped me tremendously, okay, and I can wrap this up because I know we're getting out of time, but I see my role as a mom as part of my job. So it's like, okay, how do you show up to your job as the CEO of Model FA? You're on your shit. You are prepared. You are ready. So this little shift has really helped me. Like, so I have days in my schedule where I'm a full mom. Like, I have no meetings. I don't work. I barely check email. I'm fully clicked into my home and my family. And I'm like, this is my job today. So how do I show up? I still wake up early. I am like showered and my teeth are brushed. And, that is my job that day. And so that helped me a little bit too, just that little like mental hack. Yeah. But it's so sweet. Okay. Do you have like 5 minutes to do lightning round?
Let's rock.
Okay. What is, in your opinion, what is some entrepreneurship advice that you don't subscribe to?
That I don't subscribe to. Okay, I was not expecting that question. Entrepreneur advice I don't get rich quick. Like there's a lot of like get rich quick stuff out there. There's, people online renting Lambos and, taking a picture, acting like it's theirs. And the idea that you can be an entrepreneur and get rich quick, I just don't believe. Like quick money in, quick money out is my thought. I think that you can earn money fast, but fast being 5 years, 10 years. Yeah.
Not as fast as we would like, but yeah.
But that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, great. what is a book or podcast that you're loving right now? Besides the Beyond Referrals podcast, obviously.
So your audience isn't easily offended. I would say the Real AF podcast with Andy Frisella. And I say that because he can be fairly colorful in his language, but that's a podcast I listen to all the time.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. And then I'll just ask you my last question. So who is someone else I should have on the show?
Great question. You already had Dan, so you took that away. I mean, Mike Barrasso on my team, he's really great for someone outside of our little ecosystem. I'm just looking through my calendar. Jeremy Hauser is great from Simplicity. I was just on his podcast, and he's a stellar dude.
I literally just connected with him on LinkedIn because I saw you on his podcast.
So before we started recording, I had said something of the effect of you have not because you asked not. You just asked, and now you have. Here we are.
That's great. Well, I literally this morning was like, hey, we should do a pod swap because we were exchanging a few DMs. So that this is our sign that we should definitely connect.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, David, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing more of your story. I really, really loved and appreciated getting to know who you are more. And I just am excited for you and what you're doing and really glad to be connected. And so everybody go buy the book. I'll link it in the show notes. Follow David on LinkedIn and connect with him and what his team is up to. It's really exciting.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. If this conversation resonated with you or you learned something new, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And do me a favor, like and subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Comment on anything that you want to see or hear more of in the future as well. You can also stay connected by subscribing to the Wonder Weekly newsletter and connect with me, Emily, on LinkedIn at Emily Armstrong or Instagram, Emily Armstrong 2.0 for more insights on building modern client service firms. Until next time, keep on adapting, modernizing, and growing beyond referrals.